Pressing it and it's up. And welcome to DevKami, episode
Hello,
200. Hello, of course. My name is Ming,
I am Tristan.
and Chi Liang is going back to his hometown for voting because it's
Mm.
election week,
Are you
as usual.
already at your hometown, Swimming?
Uh, Technically, I'm never left, put it this way.
Mm.
Because, okay, so in this case, I'm not in the correct, how I say it, I'm not in the traditional sense of a hometown per se. So it just that most people go back to their hometown to vote. So in my
Mm.
case, hometown also means somewhere your parents from, and it's not where you are not the same place you stay. So, for example, my dad actually born in Kuala Lumpur.
Mm-hmm.
My grandparents, as a result, is here at that time when they're still alive. Longer you need to go all the way to China. But my mother is all the way in Perak.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so technically, if we're going to say that my hometown should be all the way in Perak, which I for some reason just don't feel like it. But in my case, also is that I was born in Kuala Lumpur, but I grew up in Selayang, which I get my IC. So then it's like I split into two places because of gerrymandering, etc. So in short, I do not leave this place for
Mm.
voting.
So
So
you
yeah,
are voting in the federal state,
no, it's actually Selangor.
Selangor.
So
So you're
yeah,
a Selangor voter.
correct. Kuala Lumpur do not actually get representation
Mm.
because Kuala Lumpur is a city. Then they are under the federal government
Yeah.
due to a lot of opinions, political maneuvering, and all that. Kuala Lumpur do not get representation in many way, which
Mm-hmm.
is actually a bit. I have my opinion on that, so let's not go there. When people do vote, it's actually the state around Kuala Lumpur.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but within Kuala Lumpur itself, there is no representation. So
Got it.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Then my next thing is let's talk about our news that before we do about stuff.
Sure.
So let's talk about event. This week they definitely have no event actually. Uh, TechUp have some online things so you can join in. So it's on
Are they
Saturday.
broadcasting the vote, or do you know?
Oh, you mean the actual vote counting?
Yeah. Are
Yes.
they are they
There will have.
covering it?
Yes. Okay, not by TechUp, but all major
Oh
news sources
yeah.
will cover it.
Mm-hmm.
All major news sources will cover it. This time it's a bit tight, I believe, because nobody can give an answer on what next. So the prediction is a bit weird, and I will not make my own prediction here.
Mm. Wait, are you
As a result,
predicting that Monday is a holiday?
oh, honestly, I do not know. To
Okay,
be
you can't
honest, I
predict.
don't
You don't
care.
want to predict.
Yeah, I don't predict, and I rather not. It's the effort should be put on handling the next year or so because if you follow the tech side of the world, okay, so around the world, there is
Mm-hmm.
inflation.
Mm-hmm.
The war in Ukraine hopefully do not escalate as much. Uh, so the recent case of Russian missile in Poland is this escalate for some reason. I do not know what happened.
Oh, they're
What
downplaying it because they know what it means if it comes from Russia, right?
Correct, correct,
Because if it comes from Russia, then the whole NATO gets involved, which is why
correct.
I was it can, like, you would have expected that the news would say, oh yeah, it's Russia did it because everything that bad that happens in the war is because Russia did it, right? But
Correct, correct,
you'll have to notice and be surprised that this time people actually admitted that it might not have been Russia, it might have been something
correct.
else because
Yes,
they don't really want to escalate the thing.
precisely. So either way, one of the things that I do hope from whatever group is that next year economy it will not be as good as most people think. To be honest,
Mm-hmm.
recession is coming. Major tech company, if that's a sign, is firing. Uh, It is just short term painful. Long term, it means more talent which may want to start their own business and whatnot. In our country, it will impact in a way that we are exporting country, so it will be
Exporting
painful
what?
quite a lot.
Rubber or talent?
Palm
Oil?
oil, palm oil, natural resource. We do have natural
Yeah.
resource,
Mm-hmm.
and also talents outside Malaysia. I do not know what will happen to them because, as I say, it will be, but that will be outside this country, right? So
Mhm.
that I want, that is my hope for the goal in the future. With that said, who will cover everyone? So expect Peter to be up until something else happen, but I hope not. So far so far let's put it this way. Let's hope nothing will happen, and it tend to be Malaysian election is very boring, which is a good
Mhm.
thing, right? In most other
Mhm.
country, you will get very big case. Even when in the last changes, Malaysian politics is very peaceful, which is a good thing actually, right? It's a good thing.
Mhm. Of course.
So and Malaysia, and this is the good thing about our country, because in other country, any big changes will lead to worse situation. So yeah, and may things just get better from there. So as a result, the only thing that happens online is actually uh, the IO Foundation had a event as usual.
Mm-hmm.
So once you've done your voting on Saturday, you can join them, and maybe you can join after you get all your discount, because Malaysian merchants are giving discount if you vote. Just show your finger. Just show your finger from voting.
But how do you show your finger online? Like
Oh no
Lazada,
no
for
no no.
example.
You have to go to the shop
Yeah, that's the
for
thing,
that.
right?
Yeah. No, no. So once you go to the shop, get whatever discount you want, go back
Mm,
home and follow the event for the IO Foundation.
okay,
Maybe it's
okay.
a full day thing. Yeah. So that will happening. So what other thing happening? This
I don't think
weekend,
much
then
is
we have
happening.
nothing. Yeah, we have nothing else happening. So the only thing that's
DevKami is
happening is
happening next week.
definitely Shillong should be
DevKami.
back by then.
Yes.
So with that said, yeah, let's go through our news. There's something
Sure.
that I want to talk about
Yep.
because there's things that we agree on. For example, we'll talk about new toys,
Mm-hmm.
uh, architectural mistake.
Whose mistake?
Uh, it's an opinion piece and not necessarily mistake, as so to say. So let's start with this. So the Malaysian Election Commission database with 800,000 users is being sold online. It contains selfies and my cut images, because recently to actually register to the online portal to actually check your status, you actually require to use your IC and all that for
So
the
whoever
KYC.
was storing the data got I don't know, fished or hacked or something.
Correct. This
I mean, did
given that
they
this
find? Did they figure out what happened actually?
no, they probably do, but Malaysian government do not
They're not
as a
publicizing it.
practice, do not as a practice tell us the reason. So we
Okay.
not know for sure lah.
Yeah. So what happened is, yeah, because these things, you have to have your selfie, you have to have identifiable
Correct,
information. Whoever's
correct,
storing it somehow got their I don't know, got a breach, and then so
correct,
now this data is being sold. And has there
correct.
been any buyers? I guess that's the question. Was someone
Uh,
buying?
Again, nobody know for sure as well, but it's
Hmm.
only 9,000 ringgit. So 9,000 ringgit, 2,000 US dollar, and it's I
Hmm.
in it Bitcoin and Monero, so it's a bit cheap to be
So
honest.
maybe when you finally get like all of these spam calls, then
Yeah,
oh no, okay, someone did.
it already happened in a way. Just know that if you get some call through about political parties and whatnot, just know that it's unfortunate. The only other alternative to change, move your country and change your identity, but otherwise you want to stay, it's a bit hard. You have to change your phone number and all that, complicated,
Mhm.
but it happened. Next one is, I'm going to cover this quickly. This is another APT targeting Ukraine and Asian country with cobalt strike orders. So this is actually a way for you to deploy your malware from a state actor.
Mm-hmm.
So this is yet another tools lah from APT41, a Chinese based organization. How it works is that it will use a remote code XCE, download the file, then it will create a web shell and it will deploy the loader lah. Then from there you could steal
But
information
that's
and
just
all that.
how classic worms or like viruses do it,
Correct.
right?
Correct. So all the only difference between all this is the different is the type how the cobalt strike is used and what kind of vulnerability they target. That's the only
Mhm.
difference. So yeah lah, just be careful out there. But this
Yeah,
state
well,
actor, so
that be careful. Like how do you become careful? Like
which is hard
because
because these state actors, right? So
yeah,
I
correct.
don't know.
So that's
I
that's
do
the
not have an
question
answer.
there. When someone says be careful, like I'd like an operational
Yeah,
statement, please. Like how exactly do you need me to be careful?
I do not
Like
know. I
should
don't have
I
an answer for
stop
you.
going to the internet and I don't know, do a
Yeah, I
freeze of
suggest let's build a
yeah,
hut in the jungle of Malaysia. Cut yourself off from internet.
yeah.
Write manifesto, but don't mail bomb people.
Mhm.
This one, okay, this one is the best I'll talk about. We'll cover quickly, but the argument here is the biggest architecture mistake on the past decade is going full microservice. So we will discuss this
So
further.
this is the architectural mistake you're talking about.
Correct.
Mm.
I have opinions. I don't have a good answer for that as well. Next one. So this is actually Cloudflare's log engine. So what it does is actually it actually collect logs within Cloudflare. So before things goes to your web server, Cloudflare will have some logs that collect those.
Mhm.
And this also offer things like, okay, I do not know whether this works for their JavaScripting and all that, but chances is it's Cloudflare is so it's anything that happens before it's sent to your
Browser.
web server.
Okay, even so, it's on the source then,
Yeah, correct.
not
I
not
believe
on
this on the source.
the delivery. Hmm.
Correct. Uh, okay, this is what I believe anyway. So, and more importantly, this thing actually stored on R2. This is the
What is R2
Cloudflare
again?
alternative. Cloudflare had a storage system called
Uh,
R2, which is an alternative to S3.
mm,
So, so they have analytics software and providing this data and all that. So yeah, it's in beta now. If you need it, you get to try it. You can ask for it, but it will be available to everyone if we need to. So yeah, logging system for traffic and all that. So why you may want this is you want to know. Okay, so the most basic thing: how many people come to your service, who, where, and whatnot. At one point,
the
the
usual
cache hit.
analytics, right?
Yeah. So this no, this is not the user analytics, but we want to do user analytics. It's usually start from here.
Hmm.
It usually start from here, but it also give you like cache hit, request serve, and whatnot. So that you know that whether you need more or less or whatnot. So it's still very helpful if you find a use for it.
Hmm.
So next one. Today's slow news day, lah, so not much. So this is a RCE flaw on Spotify Backstage software catalog and developer platform. So this is not. I do not believe this is on the client, on the desktop client that we usually use. But this is actually based on JavaScript sandbox library. So is it updated? I believe it is.
So how are we affected, or is only Spotify affected? It's a CVE, so this must be consumer facing, right?
Correct.
Like it can be exploited for like on
Yes.
the
Okay.
Android phone. Is that it?
Let me find out what is Spotify's Backstage. It's a Backstage is a developed by software cloud native foundation. It's a catalog to manage all user software. Oh, this is Backstage. Backstage
Oh,
is
it's
not a
not.
client
It's not
software.
the
This is
application. Yeah.
No. This is actually a server application. So if you use Cloud
Mm,
Native Foundation software, this is actually a way to build developer portals. So
I
let's say you
see.
want to
So it's like a
build,
framework. It's like Rails. Is that
correct,
it? Mm,
correct. So this thing, okay. So it goes like this. Let's say you software catalog. I believe what I do not know is whether the cover only service or the cover API.
mm-hmm.
Because when you build a developer catalog, you're talking about this thing.
Yeah.
What software is available, what library you have.
Mm-hmm.
So so this thing affect Spotify backstage, meaning this is a developer tool. So if you install it, it will affect you. Less
Yeah.
this doesn't impact the client software.
Mm-hmm.
This is only impact something that you do use it. I do not know who use it, but now I know that this looks very useful, and I can understand why people want to attack this
Yeah.
because they have a JavaScript sandbox out that go out. So internally, if you use the tools, then this is a target for you. If you use this to host your documentation externally, then there's even more reason for people to
Mm-hmm.
attack this law. And how this works is that this will disclosure this okay, so another can arbitrarily execute system command on the backstage application. So if you install it, this will attack the system hosting it. It's not client itself, but
Yeah.
there is a lot of reason why you want to do that. Once you have that, then you can set up the bad payload for people to download and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is a bad thing. So if you use this, update it because I believe it's already fixed, and that's about it, lah.
Well, usually if you're using these kinds of frameworks,
Yeah,
you're you're aware, or at least you should be more aware. You should have known this
correct,
as soon as it got disclosed.
correct. So yeah, just watch out. Again, be careful. Notice the news as much as you can. So this one is actually Tembot. This is actually a way to monitor, optimize, or configure multiple PostgreSQL instance. I don't have this problem, but let's say you do have this kind. Let's say you do install uh, PostgreSQL. Okay, I do not know how well this work for RDS, but all these things looks useful, but it also looks like
The
something
RDS
that you
has its
would.
own monitoring, right? Like health monitoring for from
The
Amazon.
dashboard is not as good. The dashboard is not as good. As a
Mm,
result, they actually expose the metrics so that you which is actually viewable in major Grafana, for example, that would do that. Prometheus do that. The only catch is AWS metric is pretty expensive because they try to get you away
mm-hmm.
away from out. They want to hold the data and hold the product by itself. But their tools is not the greatest. It's only recently they get better queryability. They got SQL like query language for log and metric system
Mm-hmm.
to be displayed on the chart and all that. So, but this not I do not know whether you use that or is this only applies to PostgreSQL that you install yourself. Uh, because yeah, how often do you have to set up multiple PostgreSQL instance? To be honest, if you start, then you maybe have one
Maybe
and one
maybe
reader, then
you have
three.
one database per client or per
I have
customer.
that, but it's on AWS, so which is why I'm curious. If you start, I doubt it. If you start, you doubt it. But if you're working on a big enough project, probably, very probable. But not a lot in my circle, lah. But yeah, uh, but I find it useful because remember that time we set our own website and just press a
Mm-hmm.
button. It's one of those, but for database. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, if you need it, I suppose it's useful even for one or two server because by default, monitoring a database metrics is and set up a dashboard is very painful. So if this is easy to set up, then
Yeah,
it's something that worth
it's
doing.
painful because sometimes you don't know what you want to look for, and so
Correct.
usually for these kinds of dashboards, like someone figured out what you want to watch out for, and that's what you
Yeah.
watch out for, right?
As a result, I think it's still valuable lah, to look at. Maybe I should try that. Let's see.
Mm-hmm.
Next one. Oh yeah, this is the dashboard that's available. So this is okay. You need to some of this you need to know what you need to understand how database work to get it. But the CPU usage and all that, this is the standard stuff. So and I think as a result, SSA it can be still useful.
Mm-hmm.
Next one, PG activity. So this one is actually a command line tool for viewing PostgreSQL activity. Again, PostgreSQL by default actually do have all these metrics outside of AWS, for example. So again, getting it is if you do not understand database, you do not know what you want to look at. Having these tools, PG activity will help you know what is important. Then from there, you
Sorry,
just
can you scroll up
implement.
again to the
Yeah,
screenshot?
yeah, here.
How is this with
Uh-huh.
the PIAA, like the personally identifiable information? Because usually you,
Ah,
like with all of
okay,
these
go on.
GDPR and all of these things, right? You don't want
Yes,
people to see transactions. You can have data as statistics, but not the transactions.
yes,
But it looks like this one actually shows you the actual transaction that's
correct,
happening.
correct, correct. There's two
So
way for that. What I do not know here, okay, PostgreSQL actually have a plugin that actually anonymize username. You can define the field; those exist. I do not know how well it works with
yeah,
this.
but this
That's
is the
one.
actual SQL statement, right? Like the raw SQL statement, because that
Yeah,
those plugins, it's encrypted at rest. Like as when you look at it, when you do a select, then you'll see it
no.
encrypted. But this is the actual statement that's being inserted
Let
to the
me
project.
get you this. Okay, let me quickly find you the software PostgreSQL anonymize. There's an anonymizer that is actually okay. I remember seeing an anonymizer that actually return the data live.
Hmm.
Okay, this one. Uh, so this one does not do that. They actually do dynamic masking, and they actually do it on query.
Hmm.
So when they show it, they will show the result from here. Okay, so
Oh yeah, well the query is fine.
I do
It's
not know.
the insertion because this one
Oh,
is
that one I
showing
do
an
not know. I do not know.
okay.
I do not
Yeah,
know.
sorry, I'm just asking because
Yep,
this is so like these are like flags that are tripped right when you're
correct.
doing an audit. Like, okay, how come your
Yes,
sysadmin is able to see data?
correct, correct. Yes, but people that do this, people that can run this, are usually people that are allowed to. They are privileged user that are allowed to
Mm,
do that. I know a GDPR kind of rules. I believe it's possible to allow sysadmins to actually view things, provided they have the access. Uh, I mean, otherwise it'd be very hard to do work. Okay, to be honest. So probably developers are the ones to be masked, but not the sysadmin. So you must have certain users that are allowed to do this. There's no such thing as totally cut out lah.
mhm.
I do not believe this is the case anyway. And when you run this, probably the DBA and sysadmin which have the access, which are given the access explicitly for this law.
Mhm.
I believe this case. I do not know for sure. But either way, it actually gives some very good metrics that is very useful
Yeah.
to find out why uh, to show you what you look for, so that you know what is the thing you look at and all that lah. Because otherwise you have to use the uh, analyze and analyze to double check again. That is slow. Having something live for you to check right now is great, and it helps.
Mhm.
It's helpful, right?
Mhm.
So yes. Next one. This is a complete guide to Python async.io. Async.io is something that you guys know, asynchronous programming. In Python, we have it's thread like, so we have the async keyword for a while. Then you actually have to consolidate the result. So async for item. So there's one. Where is it? Async.io. So this is a very good guide, but it's show a lot of stuff everywhere at one time. Uh, but this is a good guide. It gives all the right thing. So for example, it said that when you when to use async IO, this one, the reason to use async IO is because you got hard disk drive, peripherals, and all that. So reason to use non-blocking IO. So this is a good tutorial, and I also tell you why not to use it, because it will work around GIL, will mess around with data and all that. Okay. No, not this one. Where is it? Okay, I lost it. But this is a good tutorial. Coroutine, Python async IO is not free. It's something you need to do, and there's some extra work you need to handle, so it's not invisible. Even though they give you like coroutines and all that to help you, you would need the extra help from it. So yeah, just go to the guide and all that. And final one. So Arduino actually have a separate IDE for now. This is not on the new IDE, or they're not putting it under one IDE. This is actually a new IDE, and they're going to part MicroPython support, not the language. So there's adding MicroPython support to the Arduino ecosystem, so to say. So they're building the IDE so that it's similar to the Arduino IDE itself. It's under lab, meaning it's being developed right now.
So what does it mean that Arduino is adopting MicroPython? Are they a sponsor? Are they
Yes.
influencing MicroPython? Or does that mean that they're just using MicroPython on all of their devices now?
It's supported on enough hardware, Arduino hardware. Let me find the announcement. Here you are. I thought that one is the announcement. There's a tutorial. Actually, the tutorial is very good, but this is the one. This is the important one. So it's part. They're just creating the tool set. That's the first one, but they're also and some of the devices. For example, the Nikla Vision, which is the official Arduino product. We now have official MicroPython support. It's not a third-party thing. Then he worked with the creator of MicroPython to actually port the official virtual machine to a number of Arduino products. So it's a support to the creator of MicroPython to implement it on the product of the Arduino as an organization. Then they also use this for Arduino is also an education project. So they use it to actually teach a student as well for testing. And as a result, it's tool set support for their product and their activities, educational activities, and also support to the developers of MicroPython. So, and as a result, you get things like the Nano BLE Sense, you get MicroPython support. Unstable, very new, but it's there. Then RP20 is already there for a while. This Potente H7, this is again another of the hardware officially from Arduino. So, and this is actually pretty fat type of hardware. This is actually a pretty beefy hardware, other than the BLE Sense, but even that I would consider pretty beefy. So, you have official support on the hardware at minimum, and this is not a third-party support thing. So yes, here you are, RP20. In fact, as I discovered, because the Nano 33 BLE have MicroPython support, the CL series actually do have MicroPython support.
What is the CL series? What do you mean by CL series?
CL.
Xiao. Yes, because it's RP2040, right? Yeah, but I think the hardware definition needs to
not just that.
It needs to change the hardware definition because the pins and the layout are different.
Yes,
like some of it has extra LEDs and all of these things, right?
Correct. And what they do is they actually this one MicroPython. MicroPython.
You're not sharing the right screen, by the way.
Oh, sorry. Let me open up. Okay, here you are. I'm going to copy it over. So this one actually have CircuitPython support now, and it's not official from the official. It's something that C Studio actually port by by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I just discovered this recently actually, and what they do also is they actually manage to get this thing to work on their what thing again. They managed to get there's this developer board that they have that's only for the 70 series.
Mm-hmm.
They actually get this to work on that thing device, which is actually very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Let me find the documentation. See, MicroPython. Uh, so RP 2040, that's given. This is already a known thing. But it's the other product that they actually have that as well. But then I lose. They have the code somewhere, but yeah. So and they actually have bought. I lost the documentation. My bad. But as I say, the hardware is there. You need to change the pin out a bit. So you have the official support of one hardware. Then in theory, C Studio can have an example and choose to port MicroPython from this code to their platform.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the only thing I probably won't expect too much is probably the NRF 52 hardware probably is not good enough for you to
But
do.
they have BLE Sense that has
Yes, I know.
MicroPython, which is also the
Yes,
same chip.
correct. So you have the hardware on that. The only thing is, MicroPython I found is a bit big, so you probably can't do the tiny ML thing, which is one of the strength of that hardware itself, right? Which too bad lah. It's really that big. It's really big lah. But if they figure it out, then that's it lah. Then I will really respect that. So let me find other things as well. Oh, actually, let me show you the right one.
Mm-hmm.
Hackster.io. Hackster, yes. Hackster.io. Let me find. See. Crap. Xiao. Oh, Xiao. Okay, let's quickly do that before we go to our opinion post. Okay, forget it. I will find the link next week lah. That's on me lah. So either way, all these actually support all the plugin and they actually get MicroPython to work somewhere. I found it in the documentation. But either way, the hardware is there. Things will get interesting lah, in a way that you get better official support for MicroPython as a language. So yeah. Next one is this. Let's start with your opinion on this before I go on.
No, I think that whatever makes sense for your project is what you should try.
Correct. Precisely. Right? And I do have opinion on this as well because in theory, one of the arguments for microservice that I read from book is that in theory, if you separate your application into what small thing, then it's one thing, do small thing, it's very unique slide. So it sounds good.
But here's the thing, right? Did you know that the internet itself is microservice? Yes. Like your DNS, you don't have any problem with DNS, your email service, etc. You're connecting to all of these microservices and everything is working. And that is because it's mirroring the organization. Like you have multiple different organizations that are independent. And so it makes sense to do it as a microservice. They own their own thing. And which is why it really depends on the organization. Like if you have a team of 3, let's say, it doesn't make sense to have a microservice with its own independent thing because and it's just going to be very difficult to manage. But if you have like 3 departments separate, like for example, Spotify, you have your Spotify backstage, whatever. That's a microservice most likely for a different, and that's a different department with a different team, different manager, different metrics, different success criteria.
Correct. And also, what I found out instead is that,
sorry, I didn't read whatever Jason was saying, but it looks like it's saying the same thing.
Yeah, it's saying the same thing. I just want to reiterate, it's precisely that, right? So people is saying that, things are smaller application means you can build things smaller, but now you got you have a small team of engineers have to support more things, right? and that is not necessarily what you want all the time. Sometimes what you really want is you want to have one monolith to do everything until things does not make sense. So another a good example is on AWS again, because that's what I'm familiar with. So let's say you have a long running processes. Yes, of course you can use your whatever long running service, like your Redis with your sidekick on Rails. On Django we use Celery. Yeah, we use Celery. So of course we can do that, and probably that would be a lot easier, right? It'll be a lot easier for everyone to build a long running service. Then now you want to get up until to a point where do you really want your machine to go bigger? And sometimes it makes sense, or at this time maybe you want to split it up, because effectively, okay, at least for Django, which I'm familiar with, when you write a Celery program, you effectively are running another instance of things, or have a service, one code that actually runs that listen to, let's say, Redis or even RabbitMQ, and that's effectively another code anyway, right? So that is a service for long running service. Then at that time, that since you already have a long running service effectively, then at what point you would do a microservice, right?
I
But
have
for
a
most
question for
people,
you. Yeah.
yes.
So you continue with the most people, then I'll have a question for you.
At most people, they will stop at that. You have maybe
Mm.
one or two long running service, your email service, your fancy analytics service, and probably just that. And that's about it. You won't have more than 10. If lucky, you get 5 add-on, to be honest. That's my experience for a small team. I could be wrong. And I probably can find some exception somewhere. Yeah.
So
What do you want to say?
my question
Yeah.
is, do you think lambdas are microservices?
In short, it can be.
Well,
can be.
not that it can be, like, aren't they actually microservices?
You can host the whole monolithic service on Lambda, but
But
there's a
each
caveat.
service is its own thing, right? Like,
Not
think of it like as
necessarily.
does it actually call? Sorry, is it actually something like sharing code with other lambdas?
So
You know
as I
how
say, it's
monolith
not necessary.
works, right? It's just doing everything. So you like
Correct.
think of a lambda that just does different endpoints doing different things. That's what a monolith would be.
As I say, so Lambda have the capability. Okay, so Lambda do not need to run on one endpoint. In fact, it's a common. As long as you don't have long running services, it's very common to have one whole application with multiple views, or in Rails term, multiple what's the equivalent of views in
Routes?
Django? Multiple routes. You
Routes?
can do multiple routes. It's a common. In fact, it's a very common. It's a very common way for people to actually reduce the complexity once they realize that things get out of hand with too many lambdas running. You can do it up until a point where you need long running services. So you can.
Then I think at that point, once you figure that out, then there's no reason to use lambda anymore, because lambdas are
Yes.
charged by how fast and how, like, basically the length of time the code runs, right?
Correct. So at this point, Lambda, okay, the way AWS write Lambda documentation is they recommend you to have one Lambda to do one thing. They really push it.
Which is the microservice pattern.
Correct. Yes, but
service
you need to also understand. You also need to understand, because it's how they make money, and also it's how they design the tooling around it. So they design the way AWS design the tooling around it is you have an API gateway, and that thing works better if you do one route to one service at one time. So it's easier that way, because it's the tooling. It's also how they make money, of course. But it does not, so you can do everything. But once you have longer running service, then you split it up. And once your Lambda get a bit bigger, then you would probably want to use things like
No, you don't write it
Yes,
in
no,
Rails for
actually
this.
you can use Rails. In fact, it is known to able to do a whole Django application
Yeah.
in a Lambda. Probably a bad idea, but you can.
Yeah, it's going to
People
be
do
very
try that.
expensive because if you have a long running service in a Lambda, then you're paying
Correct,
extra for
correct,
something that you could just host in an EC2 instance.
correct. So as a result, people do move away from there and go to EC2, and of course, you can also use like ECS or EKS Kubernetes services and all that. I won't judge how you which way you do it easy, but up to a point you would just do you would just throw it on an EC2 and get it done. To be honest, so small team, that's the pattern I see, and that's a pattern that makes sense.
Oh yeah,
Once you
the
have a
thing is,
very big team, yeah,
again, I'm asking this because you just mentioned small team,
yeah,
and then you have a microservice architecture. That's
correct,
isn't
correct.
that what this like Jason is just saying that, hey, that you don't that doesn't actually make sense
No, it
because
does not make sense to have microservice for a small team. To be
yeah,
honest,
and then
it
having a
does not make sense.
Lambda is very much lending itself towards a microservice architecture with one service, one
Correct,
thing, and then you're
correct.
like it's just unless you have to specifically do some gymnastics to combine things together, and then you might as well been
Yes,
off hosting it in EC2. So yeah, that's just what
correct,
I wanted to point
correct.
out.
Correct. It's really just that. Start with EC2. That's the easiest thing. Unless you're absolutely sure for there's very, very niche case where you can throw things into a microservice. For example, I know our experience in microservice is very cheap. What is expensive with the database? Instead of having an EC2 running. That's actually the argument.
Mhm.
Because if you know for sure that your things only run does not run long and not caught as often, it can be cheaper. It can be cheaper.
Yeah, because
But
you
if
only
you
pay
know
for
that things
usage,
are,
right?
yeah, correct. But if you constantly running, might as well just use EC2. Another example of niche use case is, let's say you have a model system that only triggered once in a while through a web. Yeah, maybe you would have one Lambda to as a trigger, and that is then through AWS SageMaker, right, which runs your models. As I say, niche cases, you don't have that many really. In our organization, what we use Lambda for is for processing tasks. But I think that's a bit weird because some of the long running tasks is so long it actually past 15 minutes. As a result, we need to design things into
Yeah, I think
step functions.
what needs to happen is there needs to be a measurement as usual. Start with
Correct,
the
correct,
metrics. How many times is this lambda called, for how long,
correct,
what's the cost?
correct.
If you're going to be building a service in hosted in EC2 in Python
Yes.
or in Rails,
Yeah.
how like what would be the cost and how often will it
Yes.
be called,
Correct.
and then
Correct.
compare, and if there's a
Yes.
difference, will the
Yes.
additional man hours or manpower that will be involved in building it, will it be covered, and if it makes sense, then
Correct.
switch.
Yes. So in this case, we already know the answer. I'm not a big fan of Lambda until you really need it. There's time you need it. Often you don't. Often you really don't. So yeah, lor. Actually, not much of argument. There's not much of debate among us really, which
Hmm.
is I think is really silly. So
Yeah, well,
yeah, lor.
again, the move to Lambda is the same thing. Start with metrics. How
Yep.
often is this particular service called? And
Correct.
you, Amazon is very, very transparent about its pricing. This runs
Correct.
this fast, and for how long,
Yes.
and this is how
Yes.
much it costs. And you can already measure it.
Correct.
You can already predict how much it will be if this was hosted in Lambda. If it's much cheaper to host it in Lambda, then extract it out.
Yep.
It's hosted
Correct.
in Lambda.
Precisely.
Although
So
it
yeah.
is a very difficult what they call this,
Uh-huh.
it's very difficult to argue this because if this service was already part of the monolith which is running in
Yep.
EC2, then you're basically paying extra just to extract the service out. So it's
Correct.
going to be a difficult argument to move things out into a lambda.
Yes. Uh,
I guess it just goes
sometimes
to
you.
show why lambda is not a very good idea,
Yes.
aside from certain use cases like you mentioned.
Correct. And service-based architecture. Something is just too early for you to think into a service a service-based application. So yeah, it's sometimes we run service, but not all the time really. Not all the time.
So again, I haven't read whatever this person is saying, but it
Yeah,
looks like he's
correct.
saying the same things that we are.
Yeah, precisely. And with that
Because
said, let's
again,
show our toys. Uh-huh.
because in experience wise, this is generally the
Yep.
same pattern that we've always seen. That lambda is
Correct.
cool, but there are sometimes it's just you're just not at that scale. Like
Correct.
you delude yourself to thinking that, oh yeah, we need the lambda because we will have 1.5 million customers eventually, but you're not yet there yet,
No.
so you're
Correct.
not you don't need to pay that cost of
Correct.
scale.
Correct. Correct. So yes. So that's about it, lah. Don't premature optimize or think that we're going to get a lot. We make it scalable now. We don't. Sometimes we uh just there's way to scale these things slowly. So don't worry about that too much. With that said, let's talk about toys.
Mhm.
I'm going to leave the link here. I'm going to just close this. I'm going to show because I'm going to show some links after this, but I want to find okay this one. Okay, so recently what I did is I actually bought a Ring Fit.
Mhm.
So Ring Fit is a game. It's a game about
For the Nintendo
exercise.
Switch.
It's only available for the Switch.
Mhm.
It's actually utilizing the V controller, the Switch controller. So they actually use the accelerometer, of course, and also there's a heart sensor through the infrared camera, which I don't think is really accurate. It's pretty sturdy. You can see it's pretty hard. So I'm going to show an example of workout.
Oh,
Oh,
did
that's
you
not
take a
very
video
good.
of yourself?
No, I can show you my Strava profile for my activities. Here you are. Here you are. Let me show that. Oh no. Okay, cool. Okay, so this is mine. Let me share my screen again. Da-da-da, add to screen. So I've been working on this quite a lot, but oh no, I need to log in because I want to show you that how effective it is. The short answer is pretty. Uh, it's pretty. Uh, it's too. I do. Okay, it's also very heavy to be honest. So yesterday, for example, yesterday's game, play the game. Oh, this is my friend. I'm so sorry, dude. So yesterday, so for example, I cover like 218 constantly, and it's only like 20 minutes. It's ridiculous. It's actually pretty ridiculous. And some of the game, how they work is, some of the mission actually requires me to actually go through how many things? I have to go through multiple laps of uh, push. Can I see this? Let me add this bigger. Can I go bigger? Okay, cool. So I have to do multiple of these knee lifts, press and ring press, squat, 36 squats, just for activities. So for example, in a boss fight, for example, how you trigger an action is by actually doing squat. And how they detect squat is there is actually a strap. There's this strap which you
Mhm.
slot in a controller on your thigh. So they just with this sensor and the thigh, they actually detect movement. Then from there they get a pretty accurate squat though. It provided that you have to be honest with yourself. Then from there you actually so you actually have to do this activity to actually do boss fight. But one of the thing that they have you to do is to actually move, you have to jog on spot.
Mm.
So you have to jog on spot, and if you go somewhere higher or you stuck on water, you need to do like a
So it's
knee
a
and
pseudo VR, not really VR, but you have to
correct,
move things, but
correct,
physically.
correct. As a result, it's pretty intense actually. It's so far it's working, I believe, I hope, but it's in a way that it's making me very tired. But yeah. So last boss fight, I have to do like 20 squats or so just to beat the boss. 20 squat plus multiple activity that I lost count just
Mm.
to do the boss fight. So yeah. So that's what happening, and it's interesting, so to say.
Mm.
And yeah, lah, so that's my misadventure. How about yours? You had a new
Uh,
laptop like
yeah,
thing?
you can open the link. I think it's well. I'll show it right now first, and
Yeah.
then you can open the link because it's larger, right? So this is the GPD
Okay.
WinMax 2. Oh no, my
I don't have it.
my what do you call this? Let me turn off my
Yeah.
blur. Okay,
Yep.
then it's this one. So this is the
Yep.
GPD WinMax 2. This is how large it is.
Yep.
This is like your hand, right? I don't have my
Yep.
do I have my tablet here? I think I have my tablet. Wait, let me just get my and then
Oh
you can
yeah.
open the you can search for GPD WinMax 2 on
Yep.
Google in the meantime while I'm getting
Yep.
this, and you can open the website.
Correct.
So this is a
Yep.
10-inch tablet. It's a
Yep.
Huawei MatePad 2. And
Yep.
if I close this, so it's running Ubuntu right now, by the way. So perfectly
Yep.
supported except for the fingerprint reader, which I don't use anyway. So this is
Yep.
the same, how do you say, how almost the same size as the uh, 10-inch. So
Yep.
that's how it's almost the same weight as well, probably double the weight of a tablet,
Yep.
but it's
Yep.
not. And it go so I found a nice carrying case, which
Yep.
is this electronic bag. It's about
Yep.
10 ringgit in Lazada. So it just it fits inside. So you can
Yep.
just put
Oh,
things.
okay.
It's
Oh, okay. I have that.
like a small medicine bag.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That I used it to stock cable and stuff. It
Yeah.
fit that.
Yeah, it
Damn.
fits inside. So it's your laptop bag. You're just carrying it around, a small
Yep.
bag, and it's your work machine, right? So I'm using it for
Yep.
work. I use it
Okay.
docked because this has a
Okay.
USB 4,
Yep.
so it's equivalent to Thunderbolt 3, and so you
Yep.
can plug in like so my monitor has um, it's like a 4K monitor. So you
Yep.
plug in HDMI and then you plug in a USB with uh, like Type A breakouts and
Yep.
Ethernet cable and pass
Mm-hmm.
through charging. And so
Yep.
you just dock it like that.
Nice. Nice. So, blah, blah. Wow. Actually, the spec is pretty good though.
Mhm.
You got the AMD version, right? You're not just
Yes,
getting
correct.
the
Yeah, I
Intel
did
version.
I got the AMD version, yes.
Then you
Then you
got
have
yes.
680M, which the graphics is actually quite decent. It's almost
Yep.
like a 3050. So about
Okay.
that speed. And
Wow.
so that's the
Okay.
thing, right? It's integrated, it's not a card. So
Yeah.
it's not a discrete
Yes.
card.
It's one of those. It's one of those AMD thing. For example, my desktop is also have that. It's a Ryzen 5 240G. I got it. I understand that.
Hmm. Oh, well,
So
it's a
yeah.
lot faster than that because that's the old
Yes.
generation, the Vega. This is the
Correct. This is
RD
very
version.
old. Yeah.
Yeah,
This is
this is
very
the
old.
much
So
newer one, which is quite like it's comparable to discrete graphics.
mhm.
And then I got the
The,
32 gig RAM as well, LPDDR5. So there's DDR5
nice.
6400. So
Nice.
DDR4, which is what's common right now, is
Yep.
the latest JEDEC standard is 3200 mega transfers.
Yep.
Right, so
Correct.
LPDDR5 is double that, and it's very important, especially for the AMD devices, because
Hmm.
because it's not a discrete card. You don't have
Yep.
GDDR memory.
Correct.
It's like,
Correct.
for example,
Correct.
a 3050 will have like GDDR5 or something. So
Yep.
this is shared memory, and the
Hmm.
faster your memory, the faster is your graphics. So that's the thing.
Yep.
That's why it's important to have fast memory.
But it's 10. How good the keyboard actually?
The
Or you
keyboard
will
is
need
very
to plug
good.
inside.
The keyboard
Really interesting.
is slightly smaller than full size, but it is quite good. What do you call this? It actually the compactness is good because I have small fingers, small hands, so I can reach
Mm-hmm.
everything. So let's see. So this is a normal keyboard, right?
Yep. Yep.
And then let's see if um, we can compare this keyboard with that without. So I think you want
Okay,
to.
it's half size. It's half size,
No, 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 no,
right?
because this one has what they call this. This one has the
Uh,
numpad, right? You don't have a
ah, ah,
numpad,
ah, ah, ah.
so it's slightly
Okay, okay,
smaller. So it's
okay,
only
okay, okay,
slightly
okay, okay,
smaller.
okay, okay,
It's
okay.
because the enter key, for example, the tab, it's
Yep,
they're slightly smaller,
right.
but the whole keys themselves are actually just a few millimeters.
Mm.
What do you call this? Thinner, but
Yep, yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
well spaced and it's very not ergonomic, but very easy to get used to. So
right, 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 right.
typing is very fast.
Okay. Then how about battery life? How long does it
I
last
haven't had
from
a
you,
low
sir?
battery yet. Well, because I'm
Okay.
mostly uh, what they call this. I'm just mostly just watching YouTube when it's not docked. Then I'm just
Right.
using it docked. And the thing is, it's doing pass through if it's docked. So
Okay.
that means it's not
Right.
using battery when 100% and it's docked. So
Yep,
um,
yep.
it, yeah, you're just not using battery life.
Okay, okay,
Yeah. So this
cool.
has an active pen as well. I just didn't get the pen
Ooh.
because I don't need
Okay.
it right now.
Oh, you mean the screen is actually can work with a pen.
Yeah.
Nice.
It uses the Surface Pen style, so that whatever you
Right, right,
can,
right.
whatever pen the Surface tablets are using, it's using.
Yep. So how much is this again? Looks
So I got
tempting.
it from Indiegogo, which is
Right.
the introductory price. So it's
Yep.
10,000 Hong Kong dollars for this particular model. So it's
Three
about
thousand.
6,000 ringgit.
Oh, 6,000.
But if
Okay.
you're buying it retail, I think it goes for about 8K.
Yeah, 8K, which is somewhat expected price for something that's bad. So I actually look one to get one of these things for a while, but I'm mostly thinking of it as a secondary device. I
Mm.
mean, I don't need
I
it.
wouldn't go for a large for this kind of specs for a secondary device. This is a primary
Yeah,
device spec.
yeah,
Like you
it
should
is
get for
because
look for the products and go
uh
for the GPD Pocket. So go to the products GPD Pocket.
okay,
Yeah,
there is
I think
one.
this is a
Yep,
good secondary device.
right.
So this is
And this,
pocket, so it fits in your pocket. I think they
yep,
will be refreshing it next year. But you see,
yep,
this one has, if you scroll a bit down, yeah, the KVM module. This is
yep. Oh, there is one.
the best thing here. So here you
Yeah,
have
yeah,
a pocket, right? But
yep.
if you put in the KVM module at the back, then it
Okay.
becomes a display and a keyboard
Ah,
for any headless device. So this is great for system administrators who can
yep,
just carry this around. You have a laptop,
yep,
sure, and
yep,
then oh, okay, the server is making having problems. I plug
yep,
in the cable, I plug
yep,
in the yeah the video cable, the USB cable
yep,
for the keyboard, and now I can control the remote device.
yep. This one is interesting in the way that there is an expansion module. It's a replaceable module. It's not
Yeah,
expansion,
it's
but
a module. This RS232 before it was the USB. That
yeah,
now they have RS232, which is again this is very much geared towards sysadmins. Uh,
yeah. Sysadmins or people that run work in the industrial area,
mhm.
right?
Or
So
like
people
IT
that
support.
maintain machines. Yeah, IT support. Yes, I mean, which not me. I mean, I can use it. I know how to
So this
use it.
yeah this is great because now you can this your server, plug in
Yep,
keyboard, plug in video. Now you have a
yep,
monitor and a keyboard for that headless server.
yeah. And also, GPD Pocket refresh every few years. I think it's around the time they do that as well.
Yeah, this is, so
Maybe.
the current one is 11th gen. Um,
Yep,
so this year, most likely, they might have an AMD version and the
yep,
12th gen probably.
yep. And this is a full OS thing. Maybe I can even use this to
Yeah.
replace my reader, right?
Mm-hmm.
While having a full OS thing happening.
Correct. Yeah.
So yeah, I may consider this. How much is this for now? Let me
This
see.
is being sold in Lazada as well. So if you have
I
Lazada,
know.
then it's the
Let me.
official version with warranty and replacement and all of
Yep.
these things. So the thing
Actually, this
is,
is the huh.
yeah, so
Yeah.
because this is from Indiegogo, so it's really a lottery. Because if you have like a defective unit, right, then you have to
Yep.
shoulder the cost of shipping it back, and it can be
Right.
expensive. But then, of
Right.
course, because you are doing that lottery, then it's a lot cheaper as well than
Yes.
the retail units. The retail units will be a lot more expensive. So if you go to
Yep.
GPD Pocket,
Oh, sorry. GPT Pocket. This one. Oh, you mean where? You
the
mean the original page?
no, yeah, on Lazada, if you search for GPT space Pocket space 3,
Okay.
because the
This pocket.
WinMax is not yet available. It's still
Right. Right. It's very new.
yeah, it only launched like last month. So that's the
Yeah.
price. This is the left side is the uh, sorry, the N6000, the
Yep.
Pentium one. Sorry,
Ah.
Celeron.
Okay.
This one is the 11 i7. So
Right.
it's
Right.
not
Right.
bad.
Right.
It's
Right. Right.
5K for an
Yep.
11th gen. I would still
Yep.
prefer an AMD 6800U or the 12th
Yeah.
gen, but
Correct.
so that's why I don't know if I will get it next year because this is small enough, and I don't need something like this, like
Yeah. I
for
don't.
what they call for a
Yes, it
main
makes
machine.
sense as well. Yeah, I mean, I for your thing, it's for main machine. It makes sense. For me, I'm just considering. I don't even need this for the first place
Mhm.
because my other alternative is probably a tablet if I even need it at all. Know what I mean? Because my phone is pretty big, actually. Believe it or not, my phone is pretty
Mhm.
big. There is a secondary device. Uh, it can plug in the keyboard. I have a USB thing that I can plug a keyboard in anyway, so I don't need it per se. It's a luxury anyway.
Mhm.
So okay lah. Then final thing I want to share that I forgot is actually this guy. Uh, so this is a JavaScript engine for RP 2040, very small, 64K RAM, model.js feature, etc. PIO support, event loop, and built-in module. Yeah, lah. So this exists. And final one, I know some of you guys are balik kampung, go back to your hometown today because some go back tomorrow. Tomorrow is a public holiday. And knowing our circle, Saturday is a holiday anyway. So go vote on Saturday. Go vote on Saturday. I won't judge who you vote. So yeah, I do have opinion who you vote, but I won't say it here. So
Mhm.
yeah, happy voting. Don't go crazy. It's just politics, so don't go too serious about this either. There is ways to talk about policies, so let's focus on that. With that said, thanks for listening. Chiliang should be back next week. Yeah, lah. So I said
Bye. See you next
goodbye.
week. Bye.
Yes, yes.